What's brewing, Austin, Texas?
Welcome everyone. 7:30 is 7:52 by our watch.
Well, that's what happens when we get technical, but we're off to a great start as a glorious Thursday morning in Austin, Texas, and there's a lot going on. This town is jumping with announcements and things that are happening. But I think before we start in the real estate space, Kevin, this is a massive week for what's going on in the markets. So let's start with that, including the fact that, happy Juneteenth, everybody. Let's honor those and celebrating Juneteenth. The market is closed today. So what you got going on?
You want me to start with all my big news? I thought you were going to start today. You looked ready. You looked so prepped today. You uploaded your slides. You got your shit going on.
I have so much. Got it going on.
I don't want to slow down your thunder. You seem like you're on a roll. You sure?
Well, it's a big week for the economy, and then we'll go into the May stats are out. So I'm super stoked. Let's jump into the economy because this is really a big week. We know a lot's been riding on this week, and there's big announcements tomorrow. So hit us up.
Well, the big news obviously was yesterday, the Fed announcement. They said they did not do anything to the Fed funds rate. We all knew that was pretty much going to be the case. The bigger news was more what they kind of forecast and what they're seeing. And they're believing that they're going to see inflation rise towards 3% by the end of the year. It's going to average about 2.4% next year. So that's significantly a little bit higher than their 2%. The other thing is the median projection for the Fed funds rate, and I can pull that up on my little slide here. This is a dot plot. So 4 times a year, the Fed puts this out. This is their second one this year. But as you can see down here at the bottom, there's 2025, 26, 27. This is where Fed members believe that the Fed funds rate will be. Right now, we're sitting between 4.25% and 4.5%. As you can see, by the end of 2025, you have all these members believe that we're going to be, it's 8 members, believe that we're going to see a rate cut. The interesting thing is we had, I think it was 4 members believe that we were going to stay put at the last dot plot. This one, we're seeing about 8. So a few more members believe that there will not be a cut this year, but the same amount still believe that there will be. But we talk about it a lot. So I like to show this chart to a lot of clients that I actually speak to about strategy. Because if you look at this, by 2027, a majority of them believe we're going to be right around 3%. So if you see that 3, that means that the Fed funds rate is going to have to come down 1.25 to 1.5, which is fairly a significant move from the Fed's approach. And if you're somebody that's looking at, well, what type of environment are we in and what strategy should I implement? Should I pay for all my closing costs now? Should I potentially use some of the bank's money? Should I ask for seller concessions? All those wonderful things. What should I do with that money? Should I buy down my interest rate? Do I want to do a 2-1? All of that plays into that dot plot because it really gives a good projection of where the Fed is headed. Those were kind of the big things that I took out of it. They also indicate that they're expecting unemployment to rise from 4.4 to 4.5. And then the other thing, they're looking at economic growth. So GDP is going to drop from 1.7 to 1.4 by the end of the year. So those were pretty much the big takeaways from the news yesterday and what the Fed had to say. Uncertainty still remains. And the one interesting thing that I thought that he said that I kind of shook my head at. I was like, really? He said he wasn't sure if tariffs were going to cause prices to increase or decrease. And I was like, what? I didn't really understand what he meant by that. And no one really followed up with a question with regards to it. The only thing I can ascertain from it is, are the tariffs going to be something where it's going to raise capital for the U.S. government? We then pay down our debt, and therefore we offset the tariff pricing with. But that's more of an inflation side, so I wasn't quite sure what he meant by that.
Okay, well,
everything else seemed pretty crystal clear.
If you're not sure, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
You're the guy I go to, and it sounds like the market's not sure.
The market's not sure. I mean, prices seem to be fairly stable right now. I don't think there's a major concern on that end right now. We can see the consumers pulling back. We can see that. We saw retail sales this week. Retail sales were bleak. Core came in less. Retail sales overall, they were projecting a 0.6% decrease. It came in at 0.9. So there's no doubt the consumer is pulling back, but you didn't see a huge reaction to it because everyone was waiting for what the Fed was going to say the next day. And on top of that, everyone is pretty much kind of baking in the fact that the tariffs were announced. If we look at this chart right here, this is a 3-month chart for the 10-year Treasury. If you look at this April timeframe right here, April to April 7th, that's when Trump came out with this big, nice board. And he was like, look at all these tariffs. And we were back in grade school. And I thought it was hilarious. But you saw that big drop. You saw the panic come in. And then you've seen kind of since then, everything was a knee-jerk reaction back up, right? Overcorrection, 2 of them. Kind of stabilized. It looks like we were going to get some negotiation. And then we had that big jump with the announcement of, hey, we're going to stick it to China and so on and so forth. But you see since like mid-May, we've been in kind of this holding pattern. We're moving up, we're moving down. It's not really dicey.
No.
Yeah, we're just kind of streaming along. So that's where we're at currently. Like I said, you gotta work with a good professional that's in tune, because what you do see is you do see minor. We are kind of streaming along here, but there's peaks and valleys, and that's where you got to take advantage. And they're consistently happening. It's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. You have all these little bits, and where you really want to be able to lock in, if you're on the purchase side, you got an upcoming closing, you want to make sure you take advantage of those dips if you can.
So let's talk about that, Kevin. If I'm as a buyer, if I'm working with you, what?
And why wouldn't you be, Jennifer?
Pardon?
I said, and why wouldn't you be?
Okay, so we're going to start over. So Kevin, if I was a buyer and I was working with you for the purchase of a home, how soon within my closing date can I lock in with you? What's the maximum
good question.
Number of days out that I can lock in?
I mean, banks will allow you to lock up to 90 days out if you wanted to. But what they do is they increase your rate. Typically, they're going to pay less yield for the longer you want to lock in that rate. So for instance, let's say at 7%, the bank is paying a yield, which is a commission, for 30 days at 1%. Well, if you want to lock it for 60, they're only going to pay me 3/4. If you're going to lock it for 90, they're only going to pay me a half. So they will decrease the yield spread, which then inevitably sometimes can push the interest rate up for the longer you want to lock, because the bank's got to secure that rate on the back end.
So if a lender tells me I can purchase my home and lock in my rate at 40 days out, how is that an advantage to me as a buyer versus locking it in at 90 days out?
Is it an advantage to you as a buyer? The lender says that you can do that. There's no advantage. If you're happy with the interest rate, there's no advantage one way or the other. If you're locking in and you're happy with that rate, the beauty of locking is just you're not going to be exposed to any market shifts. You're not going to be exposed to any rapid changes. But that has a plus and minus. Should the market move in the opposite direction, obviously you've already locked. You would have to begin the process all over again and go to an entirely different lender. Lenders, depending if it's not, FHA or VA, if it's not a government loan, lenders will not often accept appraisals from one to another. FHA and VA, they'll swap them. They push them over. So there can be pluses and minuses. Does that answer your question?
No, thank you. I appreciate that. So I'm going to ask the question a different way, because I think this is really important for our viewers, and this will make a good clip, honestly. Okay, so Kevin, if I'm building a new construction home, is there a specific deadline to which I can lock in a rate? Meaning, can I do it 90 days before the house is ready, or do I have to wait closer to 30 days because they have to appraise the house?
No, you can lock it. You can lock it 90 days. Not a problem whatsoever. The lock does not matter with regards to the appraisal. Has no relevance to it, so it doesn't matter if the appraisal's back or not. As long as an application it's been submitted to a lender, you can lock right then. So there's no hesitation from a locking standpoint. Once it's imported into that system, you have the ability to lock real time. When you go into a builder, what you're referring to is often builders buy block of loans. So they've already said, hey, we're going to buy these block. We've secured it. They've paid upfront money to secure those locks. Those locks are already out there. And because they're willing to pay that money, those lenders are going to be more lenient. It's not a 30, 60, or 90. They have a block for probably 6 months, 9 months. They can have a year to use those 10 loans or that asset bundle to offer that to clients. So it's a much different, it's very different than the open market. Whereas if a client comes to me on an existing home, as soon as that loan goes in, they can lock that day.
Great. Thank you.
Does that help?
Yeah. And I'm asking this because I have a client whose lender is with a builder and they said, well, you can't lock in until 40 days prior to the closing of your home. And I was very curious about that. It just seemed odd to me. And it also seemed, for lack of a better word, in my opinion, lazy, but that's an uneducated space that I'm coming from. So that's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily lazy. It just maybe means like that individual you're dealing with just doesn't know. I don't see any reason. Once you have a purchase agreement in place, he may not be, or she may not be explaining it from a standpoint of he doesn't want to lock because if the house isn't done in 40 days, well, now there's a problem. Now you have to do lock extensions. You have to let that lock blow. You could be subject to whatever the economic conditions are at that point. So it may just be a communication barrier of, hey, I don't want to do that because, instead of just saying, hey, 40 days is our max. Because that's not the case.
Right. And that's what they were told, was 40 days was the max.
Doesn't sound right to me. I mean, I can go into every lender I have right now and request a 90-day lock. So
right. So that was always my understanding.
Yeah.
So I was wondering why the guy wouldn't just say, okay, let's do a 90-day lock. And if he goes beyond 40 days, who cares? Like, don't do a 40-day lock, do a 90-day lock.
Right. Yeah. Unless he's got a particular lender that he's using and that's what they do. But I mean, if you know the lender, I mean, I can always find out. But again, 90 seems to be the standard. I don't know any lenders that are just saying 40, and 40 is kind of a weird number, frankly.
I thought it was weird too.
Yeah, typically it's 30, 60, 90. Or 45. 45's in there, but 40, strange number.
That's the exact number that I was given for my client. So I just thought it was weird.
Doesn't sound right. And again, it could just be a communication error between them. It could be what he's hearing, and the guy has told him, hey, we don't want to do a longer, a lock at this time, because if it's not done in 40 days, he hears 40 days. He tells you 40 days. You know how you do that phone game when you're sitting at a table and you whisper in each other's ear, and then by the end it's all jacked up.
I have it in writing, so that's.
All right. Well, I would just
call my client. So
I would just call him directly and say, "Hey,
I am going to. I'm going to. I think that's something, for clients that are out there, the value of your realtor is not that they are a lender. The value in your realtor is to protect you on all sides. And I'd like to understand on behalf of my clients, when I hear something that isn't based on what I think is the norm, then I'm going to ask those questions on their behalf. And so that's why when you are in new construction, that's one of the phases that a lot of people don't talk about, is when you are in the new construction phase, is some of the builders now, for example, Perry, you don't have to use their lender to get the deal.
Yeah.
Whereas some of the other builders that are out there, most of them, in fact, are saying, no, you've got to use our lender to get this value.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting time in new construction right now. As you know, it's a crazy number. Like 60% of builders have incentives out there and what percentage of that has financials in it, I don't know, but it's probably a pretty solid number if I were to hesitate to hedge a guess.
And a lot of builders right now are moving away from that because they don't have the capital to secure the lower rates. So they're like, hey, if a client can go get a better rate somewhere and they're happy, let's make them happy. Let's just buy the house.
Yeah,
Where they really try to push is when they bought those block of loans. And my other suggestion for your client would be, given the geopolitical environment we're in right now, we haven't even spoken about it. I wouldn't lock right now. I'd ride that wave. And I don't mean it in a good way. I'm just talking, hey, facts are facts. History is history. In times of grave uncertainty and unsure of what we're going to do as the U.S. in this conflict, angst puts people on the sidelines, which means a slower economy. People move away from markets. They move into safe havens, treasuries, gold. Do I think it's going to be significant? No. But do I think the upside risk of data that's coming out? Next week you have a lot of Fed members talking. I don't think they're going to vary from the chatter that they have. If I add this, this is next week economic outlook. You got services, PMI, manufacturing. That's purchasers, managers, indexes. So they go out, they survey them. I don't think that's big. Consumer confidence, I think that's going to come in probably a little bit low. We have a lot of Fed Powell speaks again, but he just spoke. The big one is inflation. It's at the end of the week. But I think geopolitical news reigns supreme at the current moment. And my advice to him is I wouldn't be worrying about a 40-day lock at the moment. Just keep moving forward on the house and getting it complete.
I think that's great advice. I appreciate it. Appreciate it greatly. So thanks for having that like real life mortgage talk, because that's, again, I really believe that as realtors, it is our job to have enough understanding of the back end and especially of our clients' finances to help them move forward, because we're not just buying and selling houses. We are wealth strategists with our clients, and that comes in many different forms depending on where a client is in their life cycle. And my role, as far as I'm concerned, is to really take a holistic approach and be in it with them so that they keep the most pesos in their pocket. They leverage the most that they can in all facets of the transaction. So that's great advice. Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah. And I'm going to toot my own horn here for a second. Great example. Jennifer and I are not working together on this client, which is great. I would do this for anybody. So if you're an agent out there, and I don't care if I'm working on the deal or not, if you want to have a very strategic discussion of what you think your client should do, let's have it. Like I'm always open to talking about situations that at the end can help that consumer, which is what it should all be about anyway, right? We're all out to help those buyers and sellers navigate the complexities of the landscape. That's our jobs, whether you're getting the deal or not. In my opinion, if somebody has a question, you answer it. So anyway, that was a plug for Weedmark Incorporated.
There you go. So let's talk about what's happening in the Austin market, because the May numbers just came out. And as we know, we like to look at numbers, and May 24 versus May 25 and what is happening in Austin months of inventory. We are definitely, a tale of two cities. So the Austin MSA, that's the greater Austin area. It goes outside. You've got your Leanders and your Liberty Hills and all those other places around Austin. And then you've got Austin proper here. And 2024, as you can see, we had 4.5 months of inventory. Now we have 5.7 months of inventory, meaning that if another house did not come on the market today, then it would take 5.7 months for us to sell all Austin units that are currently for sale. And as of Monday, we are at, between condos and houses, we were at 17,177 units. And what was interesting about this is for the first time in a very long time, our percentages of properties that are below $500,000 have gone up. So I thought that was really interesting. So usually we're hovering just below 47%. We're usually around 46.8, 46.9. And we hit 47.3, which is approximately like 7,200 units right now for sale in Austin are under $500,000, which is really taking you more into condo inventory and homes that are probably going to need a bunch of work, not move-in ready, and closer to, to the outskirts of the city zoning, which may be changing, by the way, if the city has its way. So there's a lot going on there with proposals to start building more density, changing the UT campus, geography. There's so much going on right now with that. But
with this number, what's unique is the standard in the real estate space has always been 6 months is a balanced market.
Yeah.
Right. So in theory, we're moving to a balanced market here in Austin. I think that needs to be updated. But just something to point out.
Yeah. So when we actually look at our active listings in the city, it's pretty cool. So you've got in May, we've got 5,716 that are out like in the Austin MSA, and we've got 2,184 for those are new home listings, which is 7.9% more than May of last year. So that's a real number, almost 8% basically is what we're saying. And when we look at the active home listings in the market, the active home listing, is 5,691, but the new home listings that came out is 2,184. So that's pretty cool. And then when we turn around and we look at the median price of the houses, you can see. So again, this is a tale of two cities. In Austin, we've got quite a difference, and this is the outskirts. This is looking at for the Austin housing market, the median price in Austin is $595, while it's only $449 in the Austin MSA. Very different. Why? Because you're seeing things like Liberty Hill, Leander, Round Rock, all these places growing, and the value of those homes are lower. Therefore, when you look at all the sales, it brings down the median price. And I was looking at some data last week, and sorry, go ahead.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Can you describe the difference between the Austin MSA and Austin proper? I think you've touched on it a little bit, but I think given a better scope so people really understand, like Austin proper is what?
Sure. So you've got the Austin Round Rock, San Marcos metropolitan, right? So that's your MSA. And so it basically that there's 5 counties that there's in the central Texas. So it's Bastrop, Caldwell, Hayes, Travis, and Williamson counties.
So that's what Austin MSA is, all 5
So
of
that's
those.
Austin MSA, and the MS.
Okay.
So the MS, and it's a statistical area, and it's got social and economic integration. It's got commuting patterns that all centered around the city. Like there's a ton of stuff that when they pull data and talk to it, that is what is considered. And then when you look at Austin proper, the definition, it's really considered just the city of Austin by itself.
Huh. I wonder if that's like a 2 mile, 3 mile. I wonder what that cutoff is. That's interesting. Does it go like, would you almost
Austin's incorporated, right? The city of Austin is incorporated. So it's the core. So it's like, basically it's the core of the city. And so it's kind of just a little bit more distinctive than the Austin MSA, like I said, that has all of the counties in it.
Right, but is it like from a general rule of thumb? I'd just be curious from a map perspective. Is it like 183 south and then 290 north, 70? You know what I mean? I just wonder, like, would it?
It's
Not
let
that
me
we need it right now. I'm just curious. I don't know.
so if I can pull up that map, and we're actually talking about changing that. The city is actually talking about changing, some of the definition of downtown.
Yeah,
But getting the actual city map of Austin, I think it depends where you go, but I've got one. Let me see if I can pull this up. Let me see if it has the map. One sec. Austin proper.
yeah. I think it just gives people a general idea of, what that entails. Because I mean, that is a significant difference. You're talking, 600 to 450.
Well, yeah,
Like,
because you're going out into
massive.
Williamson, Hayes, Bastrop, like all of those counties. Like we're 5 counties in total, right? That
Yeah.
make up the MSA. So it's going to obviously be a huge differential. Like you don't have builders building houses for $400,000 in the city proper,
No.
right?
No.
And so, but
No.
if you're going to Leander and Liberty Hill and all these places, you can still pick up a house in
Yeah.
those places. So that's the difference. So I'd have to get the city of Austin. Let me see if I can have City of
Yeah,
Austin.
I mean, we don't need it right now. I was just curious. I mean, I think we get the general idea. I just, while you were talking, I just thought it'd be good to mention the difference.
Yeah.
So, not to steal your thunder. Wow.
That's no,
Okay.
it's a really good question.
So
So
since so go back to that slide real quick, if you don't mind. So since 20, if I'm looking at that, right, since 2024, it looks like Austin proper is down 2% and MSA is only down 1.6. So as much as that's from May to May.
that's May 2024 to May 2025.
Wow. So in a year, it's only down 2%.
And we're still
Wow.
above the national average, right? Like I think the national average for median household price is 430. So Austin is still above the national average, and it's
Yeah.
also we're still above pre-pandemic prices. And I'd have to pull up another chart, which I don't have with me right this second, but that would really talk to where we are in, say, like even in so Austin. So right now, here's the thing that's really interesting is from July of 2023 to July of 2024, because how stats are like way behind. So when you look at population growth, Austin added 4,005 residents, which is a 0.4% growth rate. And it's the slowest we've had in Austin for decades, whereas Houston had 43,000 people plus. So
Wow.
Austin surged at like 1.8% growth. San Antonio had a 1.57% growth. So they grew by another like 24,000 people. And DFW also added 20 over 23,000 people. So Dallas, and that was Dallas itself adding like 13,000. So when you look, and that's just because sort of the most recent data stat wise that we have, Austin has had its slowest growth year ever. I mean, do I think our boomtown status is gone? Not even a little bit. It's just I think we're just repositioning ourselves, quite frankly. We still have so much building going on in the city and towers and density of what is being built. I think while we have slowed down, we have definitely not grinded to a halt, and we are far from being over, because I'll tell you the amount of jobs in the health sector, education, tech is, I mean, while tech is slowed down, it's also booming, like just based on the Elon Musk effect, right? So I think we're just really repositioning ourselves in a way that we're adding
Well,
infrastructure.
and,
Go ahead.
and look at it from a business perspective, right? You got to, growth is all about jobs, pretty much,
Sure.
right? I mean, that's
Yep.
really what's going on.
Yeah.
Companies need to bring people in. And if you look at the landscape of Austin, it got pretty expensive to be downtown from a commercial side. Now, that's correcting itself. But
Yeah.
when that happens, you're going to see, which we have seen, is just businesses step back. I mean, I'll take, for instance, I'm not going to mention the company, but my son works for a tech company. They have a site. Their main headquarters is out in Cali. Their plan over the next year is to, and they don't have several employees here, but they're going to move everyone back out there because the price difference, it's just not there now. Like Austin at one point pre-pandemic was really sexy because it was cheap. All those pluses, right? I mean, you could get in here, tax credit, all the tax advantages.
Tax credits were a big one because we changed our tax incentives.
Yeah. So if that's gone away, the city just has to change a little bit, and it's okay. And it's not going anywhere. There's still a lot of investment in Texas and Austin in particular, but like you said, it just has to go through that migration. And obviously, when the commercial and the business side is doing that, the residential is going to play hand in hand.
Yeah. Yeah. So the property tax abatement program expired in 2022. That was a big one that went away. We had, I'm trying to think of what there was a rent relief program. There was tax exemptions that we didn't have. We had different opportunity zones that no longer exist. And honestly, the big stuff that happened corporate, I think, that allowed a lot of the companies from Silicon Valley to create what we call the Silicon Valley of the South, have changed. And that's where some of these bigger companies are like, okay, well, the incentives just aren't there anymore.
Right. And really what we're shifting from is now what's really happening in Austin is they're saying, okay, well, the growth is still going to continue. So now we really need to move to the construction infrastructure side.
Yeah.
So now that's where you're going to see all the job growth. You're going to see all that kind of take over, and you have Musk believing in it. So he's brought a lot of the automotive sector. And that's kind of what's going to take over now for a little while until I think a lot of that gets done. I think some of those incentives will come back, and then you'll see that come back, but that's going to take time. And from experience, when you're dealing with the automotive is a slow mover. It's steady. Yeah. It's great for growth. I moved from Michigan, so I lived there for 20 years. Automotive is awesome because it creates employment. It creates steady employment, and it's easy to see the trajectory of it, but it's not that explosive techie growth. Yeah, like you're not going to have that anytime soon.
Yeah. And then when we look at the, where is my close to list price? Let me get that chart for us.
Jennifer Goodman, what is going on?
It's been mislabeled. It's been mislabeled, unfortunately.
You know what? What you could do is you could show the blue garbage can. Just break it out.
The blue garbage can is no longer with us today. For those just tuning in, we had a blue garbage can, but it is no longer part of the show. And so I just think it's really interesting. Like when we look at, let me see if I can find my chart. So the total volume of sales, like we are hardly dead by any stretch of the imagination. Like our total sales across the MSA was just under 1.8 billion, which is a decent number. It just happens to be about 4.3% less than May 2024. And then in Austin proper, we had 820,445,000. So let's call it $820.5 million in total volume of homes sold. So again, it came down to sort of the same percentage wise, but again, we've got, with 5.7 months of inventory in the city of Austin. And when we look at, let's see if this is labeled correct, close to list. There you go. I'm just having a good day.
Man, it's crazy. I mean, how in
number, like, look at this.
It doesn't matter if you're in Austin proper or the Austin MSA. It seems to be at the same pulse, which is quite interesting to me. I would think that there'd be a little bit more of a variance on the outside from Leander and stuff like that, because again, as Austin proper is, a lot of people find it to be expensive. You would think if they move on the outside, their willingness to just grab something and go. But I mean, I'm shocked to see those numbers so close.
Yeah, I mean, it's barely it's dropped a percentage, like for Austin MSA, and then for last year where we were sitting at 95.2%, this year we're sitting at 94.8%. So ultimately, what does that truly mean is it's what this doesn't tell, Kevin, is the tail of prices that were originally listed, and then anything that happened in between before we got to that sold price. So that thing that happens in the middle quite often is what we call a price adjustment. And the price adjustment numbers, when I look at those, which I tend to look at weekly, is like, it generally speaking, it's like a third of the properties end up having a price adjustment. So it's super important right now that if you are listing a home in Austin, Texas, where we have over 17,000 units for sale, that your pricing strategy, one, matters to you, like being realistic, and two is being really honest with yourself as a seller, what your bigger goals are. And I'm actually going to be releasing a video about this and telling the story of, like, you can't swim to the other side if you're still holding on to the side of the pool. Like, you've got to let go and give up, if you will, something today to get to what your bigger vision is. And I can't talk enough about that, in that my role is to understand what your goals are and help you to get there. And understanding the market data, understanding the strategy, understanding where you need to be and when. So many questions I have for my sellers before we list a property, because I'm watching the market every single day. I'm seeing what's selling, I'm seeing what's adjusting, and it's a really, really fine line right now to get you from that space of listed to sold. And then are you going to be within that? And oh, well, I've heard that if people list, they're going to get, 94.7% of the number. I'm like, they're going to get 94.7% of the right number that got them the offer in the first place. And that is a very different discussion. So don't fool yourself that you can just put any number on there and anticipate that you'll negotiate, a percentage off, and then you'll end up in X. And so therefore you're going to bump it up. It does not work that way.
I think a good stat, I wonder next week, because this would play into what you're talking about, is there a distinct difference of days on market based on county? I'm sure it is by zip code, but because that's going to be a different strategy, right? Like if you're in a certain county and days on market are 50 or 40, it's going to be very different than 90 and so on and so forth.
Oh, I can do it right down to the zip code, and I'm going to actually start offering that to my clients as
I want to be a client,
as a tracking in what's going on in every zip code. Not every zip code, but I'm going to start with the top 5, and then I'm going to branch it out to the top 10 zip codes and what is going on, and start providing monthly updates in the space so that they can really understand what's going on in their area. Now, obviously, that's going to change by street, but by area, I absolutely will be able to provide that on a monthly basis going forward. Super, super important for tracking the market right now based on your life goals, and how I can help you get to where you want to go. Again, last week we talked about Bastrop. Right now, I think the biggest news in building is really Liberty Hill, Georgetown, San Marcos, Bastrop, all of those things. But number one is I think the biggest building that you're seeing that is outperforming anywhere is really in Liberty Hill. In particular, I would say that Santa Rita Ranch is one of the biggest drivers of home sales that are out there. and that puts you like Liberty Hill and Georgetown schools, depending on what part of Santa Rita that you're in. But man, if I was moving out that direction, I don't know if there would be, and I wasn't looking for like half acre plus property, that would be the place I would go. I mean, that's living La Vida Loca out there. So yeah, we can definitely start talking about that. Key areas. I'm going to be breaking down stats regularly, and like I said, providing them to my clients. So I'm excited about that moving forward to provide that data. But I just wanted to really kind of look at the May housing stats because it's a big story for us, and it's something that, from a tracking perspective, as you know, it comes out once a month, so it's something that we really do need to talk about. And if anybody wants to talk with me in particular about their area or considerations, by all means, let me know. And I'm always, going to make myself available for that. That's what I'm here for.
So my question would be, we saw those May stats. We're sitting in June. It's already 20 days in. That's why those stats drive me crazy, that they're so delayed, but they are. What do you project? What do you see we're coming into the second half of the year?
Yeah. It's that time where you really take, it's June, and it's time to take notice of the fact that we're halfway through 2025. I'm not making any predictions, but when I look at historical, we have more homes that will still continue to come on market, and we will see inevitably home values will start to come down as well, a little bit more, I think, especially if mortgage rates stay where they are. On the upside, I think that there's been a leveling off, and consumer confidence is better than it has been in our Austin housing market for a while. I think we've like kind of hit this leveling off period. So we shall see. But if history does repeat itself, then we are going to see more homes come on market. It'll be more competitive, and the value of your home as a seller, I think, is going to take a little bit of a hit in order to move it. And again, we have to look at what your goals are, right? There's the aspirational.
So you think we go over 6 months of inventory?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Yeah,
I do. That's my bet.
We're at 5.7. I mean, that'd be a pretty big jump. Yeah. And does that happen in Q3, or does that happen as we hit fall? Is that more your October, or is it a combination? Is it kind of your August, September, October?
I'm going to tell you, Kevin, in all honesty, all bets are off right now. I think our economy has a lot at play right now.
Yeah.
We've got tariffs. We've got, probably impending war. It looks like the U.S. will be entering. And I'm not betting on anything right now in terms of the long haul, because I don't know. That's a big one of where we are right now. And I think history right now is for humanity is in a precarious place. So I'm not betting on anything. I just think if we continue in the direction we're going, then we will hit that 6 months of inventory, barring no other changes.
Gotcha. All right. I think that's good advice. I mean, I don't think it's one that I'm not saying, and I'm not asking the questions because I think it's a good idea to sit on the sidelines. I don't. I actually think, as always, I say it all the time to everybody I talk to, the best time to buy or sell is when you're ready. It doesn't matter what the environment is. That's the best time, because you'll dive in, you will strategically figure it out, and there's opportunities always. So I don't think it's a negative thing. I actually think an increased inventory just creates more opportunity.
It does for buyers. For buyers right now, and you've said it a million times, it's like write an offer. You'd be amazed what you might get accepted at a time that maybe you didn't think it would. And so if it's the right house, you write the offer.
100%. Right? You begin the negotiation. If you don't write the offer, there is no negotiation. You're sitting in your house and you're thinking about it, and you're negotiating in your head, and there isn't one.
And if you're sitting there in your house thinking about it, someone else is writing the offer, and they're going to be the one sleeping in the house that you wish you bought.
Totally. So that's number one. And then I would even say on the seller side, I think it's a great opportunity too, because it's going to make the serious seller get more serious. It's going to
Yeah.
make them sit down with a strategic agent and be like, okay, give me the 10 boxes. And they're going to be checking those 10 boxes. They will be more engaged. Those will be the sellers that sell their house.
Yep.
It's not going to be the people that are like, well, I just want to throw it up and see what happens. You might get lucky.
Yep.
But again, I mean, I think there's opportunities both ways. There always is. You just you gotta work with the right people and get the job done.
There you go.
So anyway.
All right. So do you want to move to our What's Brewing fun fact?
Sure. Let's do it.
All right. More than 30 million domestic travelers visit Austin annually.
Ooh.
Just based on our events like ACL, South by Southwest, CODA, which is, that track. We've got the Formula One, US Grand Prix. We've got the Moto GP. I don't know if you knew this, but Austin is actually home to the world's premier motorcycle motocross. So I thought that was really cool. 30 million domestic travelers.
Wow.
That's a million, that's almost a million travelers. What is that? Like 750,000 domestic travelers if you broke it out in the year, per day visiting Austin. Not that we have it that simple, but obviously.
That's why we have calculators.
I think that's so amazing though, when you look at, so ACL started in 1974 and it's been this crazy trajectory since Willie Nelson stepped on that stage.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
And what's wild about it is if you look back, so you've been around Austin a long time. I was in Austin from 06 to 09, and a buddy of mine's been living here since 2000. So I've come down every year. Back then, Austin was a speck on the map. Austin wasn't Austin today. So to keep that festival alive and keep those great artists coming through and making that the event it is today, kudos to that whole entire team. Kudos to all of them, because it's one of the most sought after tickets every year, and people come in from all over for that music venue. So, back then, Austin wasn't anything. Right. I can't imagine what it was in the 70s.
Well, and now
everyone was riding their horse and buggy to the event.
Listen, when I moved here in the 80s, I was amazed that there were paved roads. So it is pretty wild. And even just what they're doing out at CODA now, with the building of the car condos, and there's just so much going on in that direction now, that the more financially lucrative spaces that they're building are unbelievable. Austin's going to have 2 surf parks soon. When you think about it, that's kind of wild.
It is.
That'll be fun. I want to learn how to surf. That'll be fun to go do that, I think.
I got a buddy that's in that space. He does the financing for him and stuff like that. It's pretty cool to see what's going on just around the country, let alone Austin, Texas. It's the growing wave of it. It's quite interesting.
See what you did there.
I'm full of them, Devin. Just stick around with me for a little while. It's a great day in the headspace of Kevin Weedmark.
Every day is a great day in the headspace of Kevin Weedmark.
Yes, ma'am. So that is a fun fact. Last week it was a quiz, though. I like the questions better. I want to try and guess.
Okay, I'm going to start doing it. From now on, we will make sure that it is a quiz. I've made it a quiz every week, but this week I've had you guess. So next week we will make sure that we get you a good quiz question.
Yes.
All right, it's great. So rounding out What's Brewing every week, we ask Kevin his prediction for what is going to happen with mortgage rates. Kevin, what's brewing with mortgage rates between this week and next week? Up or down?
I think they come down. I think they come down slightly. I don't think it's a drastic move. because there's too many factors at play. Even if we get involved in the conflict, I think you will see a flight to safety. But I think that over all the other elements of inflation, tariffs, and keeping in mind that we haven't even mentioned it. We still have the fiscal budget, right? That hasn't even been determined. It's sitting over in the Senate. They're rewrite. There's so many other factors at play that I think that range kind of sticks. I think we could get as low as maybe 4.2. I don't think we see the tariff reaction when, again, Trump came out with the big easel board like we were in grade school. I don't think we see that. But my overall gut is Fed members stick to what was just mentioned. They still talk about 2 rate cuts for the rest of this year. That'll be the kind of media pitch that'll be absorbed. And then, again, unfortunately, I think at some level, this is going to escalate a little bit further. I mean, I think I saw this morning they hit a hospital in Israel. So, I mean, it's unfortunately, I think that's what's going to happen. And I think that's going to be the reason that rates move. And I think on Friday, the big news, the PCE, personal consumption expenditure, I think that's going to show once again inflation is still at bay. And I think we end the week overall on the low side. But as always, I think there could be a couple peaks and valleys throughout that week. So you got to really be tuned to what's going on. You could wake up and something could happen overnight. You're dealing with different time zones, obviously, with the geopolitical side. You could wake up the next day and, the pre-market could have pushed treasuries one way or the other. So if you are in need to lock, you have a closing coming up in the next couple of weeks. Again, just make sure you're making decisions and you're talking to your professional at the beginning of every day and at the end of every day. And I don't necessarily mean you got to talk to them on the phone, but you should get a pulse. Hey, what's going on today? Do you think today is going to be a good day? What time does the data come out? Like, they should be informing you of what's going on so that at the end of the day, you can make the best financial decision for you.
Awesome. And that's what's brewing in Austin, Texas. It is June 19th. And thanks so much to everybody who has tuned in today. My name is Jennifer Goodman. I'm a local realtor here in Austin, Texas. I'm joined on What's Brewing by my partner in crime.
My name is Kevin Weedmark. I'm a nationwide mortgage specialist, and I'm also here in Austin, Texas. What a great place to be.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. Remember, you never know what someone is going through on the other side. So above all else, please be kind. Make it a great day.
See ya.